Welcome to the Professional Priestess Podcast, the place where medicine carriers learn to hold wealth, visibility, and devotion without contraction. Together, let's part the veil and meet the humans behind the magic. Speak to the oracles walking their divine path of service, and the alchemists transmuting density into divinity, all while navigating a very human experience. Together, we will explore shadows and sovereignty, sex and spirit. We will go deep into your soulpreneur business as initiation and visibility as reclamation. I'm your host, Lindsay Schroeder, professional priestess and spiritual mentor for leaders, healers, and those called to take their place at the forefront of the feminine revolution. Every episode is a transmission, every conversation an activation. Welcome to Season 2. This is your invitation to remembrance. Today, I have something special for you guys. I really love to do an aligned podcast trade. And today we are going to honor an extremely aligned podcast trade. So I was just recently interviewed on her podcast, and I am so excited to bring her to our community and get to share with you guys not just the blend of masculine and feminine, but to show you such a unique style of honoring masculine and feminine, and the deep realization that in our heart-centered businesses, balance is not 50-50 the majority of the time. And I think this woman has such a treasure trove of information and also embodied wisdom. And we're going to show you guys the difference between knowing something and really living it, breathing it, being it, and having it be a part of the autopilot. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your business, and just join us in the Professional Priestess podcast space.
Lindsay, I'm so happy to be here, especially after we had our podcast episode on my podcast, and now just being able to have this reciprocity is just so beautiful, and just so honored to be in your space and to have you hold space for me while you ask questions and dive in. So I am a woman of many identities. I am a business owner. I teach high ticket sales to coaches that want a more feminine approach, more feminine strategy, the feminine sales method. I am also a sponsored skateboarder. I am a Reiki master, and I love being outside. I love being free. You know, I built everything around my business so that I could be free. I value freedom, and the people that I work with also value freedom. So I built a values aligned business, and I choose to be in alignment with my values with everything I do, whether it's skateboarding, whether it's running my business, whether it's leading my calls. So really happy to be here.
Let's define freedom, because I think freedom is a term, especially when you get into this online space, when you get into coaching, when you get into healing, when you get into, the feminine rising. Freedom is a lot more of what we are talking about, what we prioritize when we are like my values, than the masculine perspective. It's not funding forward, it's not revenue forward, it's not profit forward, it's freedom forward. But I do think it's really important for each of us as those feminine leaders in business to share with our communities, how do I define freedom? Because one of the biggest things that I have found is that a lot of us get into our businesses and we think we know what we believe freedom is, or what we believe structure is, or we believe success is, or we believe these things are. And yet the patriarchy and colonialism and our societal structures, they creep in. And unless you really sit and look and reflect and do the work to redefine what it means for yourself, you're kind of operating in someone else's structure. And I know that's not where you are with freedom. So I really want the audience to be able to hear the specificity of not just the word freedom, but that the juicy little specific pieces of, this is what it looks like in my morning, and this is what it looks like in my afternoon. This is what it looks like for my non-vacation vacations, and this is what it looks like with my clients. Like, talk to us about how you define freedom and then how you're living freedom.
Love this question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me this question. So I think there's, like, hearing you talk, there's layers to freedom, right? As you know, I was a server for 15 years of my life. I worked for someone else, hustling, 14 tables at a time, being able to deliver service, bite my tongue, work with people that I didn't want to work with. That was my first definition of freedom, is I didn't want to work for someone else's definition of success anymore. I wanted to work for mine, even if I didn't know what it was. And I didn't ever want to be in a situation where I was working with someone I didn't want to work with. My I'm done moment when I put my 2 weeks in as a server and went all into my business was when s- the managers hired this guy. You could argue he's a narcissist. And I was like, what is this? I'm being
Mm,
gaslit every day. I need to be out of this. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel aligned with me. I don't believe that I should work with people that I don't want to work for. I want to
yeah.
work for me. And I felt that as a message from the universe of, why am I in this situation? Okay, it's time to take the leap. I was not 100% ready. I was 80% ready at most, but I still took the leap because the extra energy I gained from not resisting the present moment all got poured into my business. And people think, and it's so common, I thought this too, of like, we need to feel ready. We need to be a certain place. We need to have enough money in our account. I didn't have money saved. I took the leap because I trusted the version of me that would be in my business would make more money because
Yeah.
of all the energy I gained. So that was the first layer of freedom.
Mm,
Then you get into your business and then you define freedom in a way where, how can I feel free from myself? Because yes, I released the external structure of what didn't make me feel free, but then I wasn't free from myself.
yeah.
The stories came up, the hustle came up, feeling like I need to be on and move and move and move because that's the only way that I could thrive and grow my business. When there is a moment, there's a turning point where you realize, how am I supposed to build my business if I can't even let my intuition come in to guide me towards what the next step is? So I had to choose to find safety in moving slow, choose to find safety in when things feel like they're not chaotic, it's okay. Like
Yeah.
things are
Oh,
still going to move forward.
important.
So there was a lot of just letting myself feel free from myself. And that
Mm,
in turn is what I help my clients feel as well, because they're scaling their businesses. It starts to feel weird when things feel easy. It's like, nope, it's supposed to start feeling this way. This is normal. Your intuition is coming in. You feel the magic. You ask like what my day-to-day looks like. Well, I feel free when my phone is on DND. My phone is on do not disturb 24 hours a day. I wake up. I do not look at my screens for the first 1 to 2 hours. Same before bed, because I really value being in my theta brainwaves,
yeah.
letting myself slowly wake up, have my morning routine. I play the Beatles every morning. I have my high frequency recipe right here. I pull my tarot card. I meditate. I smell the fresh cut grass outside of my window. I take my time in the morning, and to me, that's how I feel free because it's ease. Freedom is ease.
That. I want to rewind just a little bit to when you said, I didn't want to work with anyone that I didn't want to work with anymore. And that for me is a big upgrade point. And I know both of us work with premium clients, high ticket clients, whether that's selling a high ticket offer or being in a high ticket offer. And that is one of those precipice magic points that I can see in someone's energy field a lot of times when they are at that moment where they're ready to work with me. And I'm guessing that's very similar for you too, where yes, you might be making money, you might be financially successful, your business might be building, but do your clients feel like what you're describing where you're like, oh, this is a little too easy. Like this is cashmere on my soul is what the content queen calls it on Instagram. Shout out to her because I loved that term of like, but does it feel delicious and luxurious? Do you show up and you are just who and what you are? And that's exactly what your client needs and wants. And it flows and it is so natural and it almost feels wrong for it to be so effortless that a lot of times I think we work with clients and especially in the beginning of our business or at those like transition points where you're like, oh, I'm proving or oh, I'm chasing the client, trying to like, I find that a lot where if I don't feel like my client is getting the growth, the progress, the ahas, or they're not lasting for long enough that I have been in the place where I take it on personally and I'm like, oh, I should follow up more with you. I should ask you more questions. I should offer you more links. Like I should do all of this. And I'm like, what if that's in alignment with where they are? Can I like chill out a little bit? Can I allow that? Or do I actually need to look at my ideal client avatar and see like, Am I calling in those right people? Am I doing the work to be the lighthouse to illuminate the path for that right aligned client who does feel like cashmere on my soul, who they're as excited to get on the call with me as I am to get on the call with them, and everything's kind of flowing. So I love that that's where you started, that like freedom is. I enjoy the work that I'm doing, but I love the people that I'm doing that work for. And those two things are not always the same in our businesses. And it's important to reflect on each piece and how they go together.
So good. I mean, there's so much there. And this is why I love and appreciate the high ticket model, because money is energy. So when you attract people that understand the value of investing and they're willing to put money down, they show up more powerfully.
Yes.
They show up with that intent. And the way I think of feminine sales too is, it's a more layers deep approach, especially when you lead the sales calls. It's different than a masculine approach. So feminine sales, it's like dating. You're not chasing, you're not proving. You know that you are the prize, and you know that the best version of you to show up for your clients is the version of you who gets to discern who is an energetic match for you or not.
Yes.
And it really, really takes being in tune with your intuition to be able to have that level of discernment, which is once again why we go back to the element of freedom, of why it's so important to feel free from yourself and to not show up in this masculine, overly masculine model to bring in clients when that does not align with your ideal avatar anyway. So it's a lot of just looking at all the pieces of how can this feel better? How can this feel better? Well, if everywhere around you is teaching you how to handle objections and tell people this and tell people this, it's like, why don't we reframe objections? Why don't we go 5 layers deep instead of telling people what to do? Why don't we hold the mirror to them to look at what is an objection anyway? An objection is a limiting belief. So when you're able to guide clients through their limiting belief and to look inward, that's the type of client you want in your container anyway. And I know a lot of heart-led coaches struggle with being able to lead a sales call in this way because it feels like it should be done this way. I need to follow this rigid script. It's like, no, you don't. So this is why I love to teach what I do is I teach leading through a sales call with checkpoints instead of a script and asking questions, because then you're just cooking the person on the other side when it's not about asking the questions. It's, did I get this checkpoint? So there's a lot of pieces at play here of knowing, okay, is this person a match for me? And can I trust them in the work? Because you said, yeah, it feels like if they're not doing this, it's like, can we trust that's part of their journey? Because that's so normal to make it about you. Well, what if it wasn't about me? What if this needed to happen? What if this was their shadow work that they needed to experience to make it to the other side? And we just get to hold that energy of trust, which can be very hard, which is why we need to master or work towards mastering that trust within ourselves first.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. One of the things that really stood out for me in this exchange about sales calls in particular is how out of alignment it is if the way that you approach your sales call is completely different than how you approach your coaching. So like we're gonna do this whole sales call that follows this more masculine, this more like make the sale, get the credit card number, get them to say yeah, make sure your close rate is the correct amount, answer these questions, like flow through, and then we're gonna get into the container, and then what we're gonna be doing a somatic practice to center ourselves, and we're gonna be asking intuitive questions, and we're gonna be holding the space and reflecting where you are back to, and they're gonna be like, wait, what the fuck just happened between here and like my sales call to my intake form to my first call. We are misrepresenting who and what we are from a stylistic perspective, from an intuitive perspective, from an embodied perspective. And I found that that's a big disconnect, and it makes it hard for those of us who are alignment based beings, flow based beings, feminine based beings, because we're performing for the sales call. And then we're going to sink into the deliciousness of our intuition for our offering. That's what I need to be selling. That's what I need to be showing. This is who I am. And if you're not able to see that in the sales call, there's a disconnect for me in my alignment and authenticity. And that's where I need to work is, okay, how do I allow my truth to flow through even this very masculine structure of, yes, we are getting on a sales call, but I don't have to be salesy on a sales call.
So good. Incongruency ruptures trust.
Yes.
Take it even a step back. If they're seeing a version of you making content, then they get on a call with you and they're attuning to your nervous system. They're like, this is weird. I'm not feeling this connection that I felt in the content. And then say they do sign and they become your client, then they see a different version of you.
Yep.
This is a trust-based business. And
Yes.
I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I'm also a PhD student. I'm studying global leadership and change. And this is a big part of what I'm learning about is really how to hold this leadership in every room you're in, which means being able to look at the rooms where you are performing.
Yeah.
Performance, it's not authentic to who you are as a being. And I think what most heart-led coaches struggle with is how do I lead a sales call without overgiving, without coaching, and having it run an hour and a half, 2 hours long?
Oh, girl, you are speaking to like the beginning of my offerings where like I was coaching on sales calls. And so often people were getting exactly what they needed from the sales call itself. And then they could wait a month, a couple of months, a year to come back because I give so much in the tiniest amount that they were like, I could nosh on that for a really long amount of time. And I'm like, what is happening here? Like, people are having such a good time giving me such amazing feedback on my sale. Oh, because they're not sales calls. They're coaching calls. They're practical. I'm literally guiding and leading and holding the space and changing you vibrationally. And then you're taking that with, and it's not a sales call. And so really allowing yourself to, as we've said with freedom, to define what the sales call is for you. Yes, we want to strip it of that disgusting salesy feeling that feels out of alignment, but you are representing your services. You are, navigating objections or talking through those or handling them or repositioning them. You are able to be the mouthpiece for the things that you've created. And like, what is the intention of the sales call for you? And I think once again, just like freedom, just like success, a lot of us get into these businesses with kind of like either our corporate background or our understanding of business or the books that we read, the podcasts that we read, and yet we're not doing the intuitive work of like, let me sit with what is my sales call? What is my intention here? What is a successful outcome? Because the only successful outcome isn't just somebody says yes and pays me. That's not the
Yes.
only answer.
Yeah, this is why data is so important. So, my group container revenue room, the reason why I'm not just teaching the sales is because I also have my partner with me and we teach the data. If
Mm,
sales feels emotional, then we are lacking something in our systems and our tracking. We don't know our numbers. We don't know our show rate. We don't know our close rate. We're making things feel personal instead of this is a business. This is me showing up in my leadership, in my authority to be able to qualify someone to see if this person is an aligned fit for my container. When we're
mhm.
saying yes to people that are close, then we have issues downstream of why is this person not feeling super connected with my teachings? Why am I feeling resentment in this container because I said yes? Or what we don't want is discounting our offer just to get the person to sign.
Yes.
Instead, there's other ways we can get creative, but that's going to create resentment in the container. It's going to leak, and it's not the most powerful decision for the container, which is why sales calls are a moment of leadership. And
Yeah.
like you said, if we're over giving, if we're coaching and they leave and they're like, thank you, I'm all full, like
Yes.
awesome. But the part where ethics is so important is what's going to happen the majority of the time. And I'm not going to say always, because I believe everyone is capable of their own journey. But most people will leave that call, be like, yep, I got everything I need. I'm full. And then their nervous system doesn't understand the shift. And then it'll go back to what's familiar and go back to where they were before the call.
Yes.
So it is our responsibility as a coach that when we are leading people through the sales call to show them what the container is going to look like because you are holding a new experience for their nervous system. And when they leave the sales call and they think they're full, they think they're good, but what's going to happen a couple days later? It's like, oh, things feel like the way they used to be. What happened? I thought I was good. It's like, because we need to stay plugged in. We need to
Yeah.
be in the presence of this container. Like, this is not a band-aid, rip it off. Oh, we're good. It's like, no, this is continuous work, which is why I've had my coach in my corner for 5 years. The work never ends.
The work never ends. And being able to reframe our relationship with that, this is a big, like, the bottom of that iceberg, so to speak, in my practice is that we desire to shift from destination based living to the method of travel. And like we've gotten to touch a little bit on this, and I think it is so unbelievably important and it is so interwoven to the feminine approach of it's not we're just trying to accomplish this thing, sign this many clients, you sell out this program, hit this revenue for the year, retire yourself at this point. Like we care deeply about how we are traveling and the ripple effect and the legacy and the rise of the collective. And so it's not just about checking these boxes, getting to these accomplishments. It's not just about signing the client. That's the very beginning. We are getting the right fit client into our aligned soul's work so that we can enact that process, so that we can do that and be that and live that together. And I do think that's why both of us are in such alignment with more of that like premium offering or high ticket offering or longer container, because what we can do in a single session is so different than what we can do in 6 months with that consistency and that follow up and that reframe and that like discipline, but in a way that is inspired discipline, not forced discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it's forced and when we say yes to people that we know is not genuinely a fit, we see the issues that start to come to play. And the beautiful thing and what I've tested over and over is when we refer people or we give them a resource or we don't let someone in that we know is not an aligned fit, when we do say no to those people, the universe brings us someone who is spot on
Yes.
because it brought in more space to hold in more alignment. And when we say yes to things that are close, just like a relationship, right?
Yes.
Like I said, feminine sales is like relationship. Sales is like a relationship. It's like dating. When we settle for someone who's close, it's like, yeah, he's close. He kind of gives me these things, but I'm kind of not getting my needs met here, there, or there. Resentment builds. You're not
Mm-hmm.
getting your need. But when you say no to that, guess what happens? Soulmate walks right in
Mm,
because we've had the space built for them. We expanded our capacity to receive more.
yeah. Yeah. I want to give you the space to talk a little bit about some of the nuggets that you've found that kind of traverse the landscape. So, for someone who is already in the premium space of selling high ticket and is like, I'm intentionally coming to this episode to like steep and saturate and be around these types of conversations, somebody who's like, I want to be there. I want to get in there. I want to like hear the behind the veil and the like practitioners who are doing this in an embodied, integrous way. But talk to us a little bit about feminine leadership, feminine led business in the premium high ticket space. Not necessarily just the sales call, but I know for a lot of us, that is the more difficult point. Once you get us in our container, we're like thriving, but the client acquisition, the marketing, the messaging, the bringing clients in, especially with this new wave of AI being such a big part to the masculine coaching space versus the feminine coaching space.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And we talked about incongruency before, and this being a trust-based business, especially when we work with energy, we are attracting people who are in tune with our energy.
Mm-hmm.
So they are hyper vigilant, they're hypersensitive, they understand like when they sense things being out of place. So like from the foundation, when I create my content, I batch it because that's my full creative flow. I'm not interrupting my day to day so that I can be in my energy so that I can go outside. I think of batching like meal prepping. Right. It's like you can cook high quality meals every day, all the best ingredients, making sure your nutrition is up to date. Sure, but what are you going to have leftover time and energy for?
Right. That's all you're
You're,
doing.
that's all you're doing. What about the rest of your life? What about the other parts of your business, etc.? So when you batch your content, you get like it takes about an hour to get into a creative flow. So I section off, I time block 4 to 5 hours, and I do my emails, I do my podcast, I do my content because I'm locked in and I can create those high quality posts from the highest version of myself instead of from a place of scarcity. So first and foremost, looking at what does my content routine look like with how I'm creating and is it channeling through? Because when I'm batching, I am locked in, I'm receiving downloads, I'm looking at my notes from the week. It is me. It's not coming from a place of, oh my God, what am I going to post today? What am I going to do now? How's this going to look like? It's like, no, it's you wake up, you click the post button. So that's the first point, because who we attract, they can feel our energy, they can feel our nervous system from that first touch point. So we want to make sure that we feel good when we are creating our content, when we are marketing for our business. Next off is as they start to come in through the funnel, it's just even remembering what parts of me feel like I'm trying to prove something. What
Mm,
parts of me feel like I need to be on and exerting physical labor to feel like I'm worthy. Because feminine strategy and feminine leadership is trust. Trust, trust, trust. Trusting that my clients will get the results. They will have their own journey without me feeling like I need to do more for that to happen. That's the
yeah.
rewiring, that's the deprogramming of that corporate mindset that we're so used to because the boss wants more stuff. Let's do, do,
Mhm.
do, do. It's like, no, feminine says you need to be.
Yes.
Because when I am out skateboarding and I close my laptop and I'm done for the day because I'm like, nope, I need to be done. I have Calendly notifications just pinging in when I am in my most regulated part of my nervous system. But it takes a lot of trust to even get curious to experiment with creating evidence for that new story. And when you are leading your containers, it's the same elements. It's practicing at a core level of just trust and curiosity of, okay, how could this feel better? Okay, how can I let this person feel like the hero of their own story? And if
Mm,
anyone listening teaches strategy too, that's a fine line because I teach a lot of strategy. I teach a lot of skill set. How do you convert conversations in the DMs to go to sales calls? How do you convert the sales calls to this? How do you input the data? So there's a lot of strategy, but there's a way to ask reflective questions so that it comes from them because you don't want to be the hero of their story. Otherwise, you become the villain. You want them to become the hero of the story by holding the mirror and letting it come from them while also instilling the strategies.
what a technical way to say something that is so energetic, is so feminine, and is honestly like very esoteric of like it we are brought up in the society that it tells us to do, to do, to do, to do, to do. And so often in healing work and intuitive work and channeled work, in that truly supportive work that is more container of like I am holding the container for you to have that alchemical experience. One of the skill sets that is really hard to fucking learn is like how to pull yourself back, how to pull yourself back, how to be less and less tinkering and in and controlling and masculine in a lot of ways, and to be what I like to refer to as the midwife. The ideal role of the midwife in a birth is nothing. That's the ideal role of like when your midwife is at your birth, her ideal role is to do nothing. Like the ideal situation is that her hands don't need to be in there and she's not needing to say anything, but she is holding the space the entire time. And if need, you get it. But like the smallest amount, and that is what I have really learned from birth work in general as someone who chose a wild pregnancy and a free birth for myself and had to take on all of that radical responsibility to do that for myself and for my baby. I learned how to be the birthing partner for my clients. I learned how to be the doula for my clients. I learned how to be the midwife for my clients. And I'm like, that skill set of like, can I let you talk a little bit more? Can I let you see for yourself a little bit more? Can I hold that mirror? Can I say it in a little bit less of a way here so that it is naturally happening inside of you where it's a little bit more of like these few things versus like here, let me lay it all out, give it to you, tell you what is right, and like step by step it so that they take on, I love how you put it, the hero role in their own journey. And what a beautiful way to describe your feminine leadership style, where it's got the flavor of the masculine and in the technical offering and in the structure, but it is very much the delivery of the feminine of like giving the power over and over back to our clients, back to the individual. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Who am I to tell someone how to live their life and how to run their business? There isn't one way to do anything. And that's the fine line with having my own frameworks, having my own strategy, testing what worked. Our DM strategy is now officially $1 million strategy that my partner put together. So there is value in skill set. But who am I to tell them the day-to-days of how they run their business? So that's why it's important. Like my point of view is my point of view.
Yeah.
So holding the mirror and letting it come from them is the most important part so they can be a hero.
Yeah. That is really The feminine style is about the collaboration of like, I am not coming to this going, I know more than you. You should shut up. You should listen to me. Let me give it to you. I express it in my priestess offerings as remembrance, as
Mm.
like, yes, it might hit your ears as me sharing something that you don't know, but when it aligns and it resonates, it's a remembrance from you of like, oh, that is how I like to operate. Oh, that does feel good. Oh, that is in alignment for me. And so maybe the way that I'm saying it, just like the way that you're saying, I'm like, yes, that is unique to me. But when it is true for you, it's coming from that deeper place within yourself. And that's really when we're seeing the most growth, the anchoring, when we're seeing quantum leaps, when we're really seeing the transmutation of the self, is when it is bioavailable. I like to say that, like, it oh, that settles. Oh, that sits. It's not Lindsay's structure for me. You're sharing your structure and they're going, oh, yeah, that fits. That works. And that we are constantly willing to adapt and pivot and show them these little minute shifts that will make it more for them. We start with the structure, the template of, I have tried a lot of different things and I'm giving you the benefit of all the fuck ups that I've made and all the lessons that I've learned. And here's that like starting point. But now let's really make sure it's in your flavor profile, it's in your style, it's in your essence, and it's bioavailable for you.
Yeah, and that's why it's really not about us. Like they are investing in us as their coach because there's an element of our lived experience that they want for themselves. But really it's the values that we're living as their coach. They want that for themselves too. But that's it. They want to like at the very core, yes, I'm teaching sales. Yes, I'm teaching you how to make more money in your business, but at the very core, I'm teaching you confidence. Confidence in how to lead your calls, confidence in how to have authority in the DMs, confidence in being able to hold containers for your clients. That's at the
Mhm.
core. So when we focus on the
Yeah.
values and we help them get there by keeping that in mind, it's a whole different experience for who's on the other side.
Yes. Ugh. Well, I want to go into some very technical pieces. So, someone who's listening to this who's like, yes, I want more of that in my business. I want to feel that way, that like spiral that both of us are describing, and the energy is rising. And we're like, yes, this is what it gets to feel like. Can you talk to us about a couple of the things that you see maybe work for a good majority of people when they're shifting from more masculine turnkey sales book, bro marketing to there's got to be another way. What are some of the things that perspective shifts, internal shift, application, technicality that will allow someone who belongs and aligns and benefits from the feminine style of leadership and sales? What are a few of the things that they could look at, that they can consider, that they can enact, that they can implement that will help them make more money in an aligned way?
So good. I mean, where do we even start with that? I'm such a tech, like I love tech. I love being able to like bring the science. I mean, that's why I'm like studying for my PhD. Actually, my dissertation is on revenue room. So I'm
I love it.
collecting data in like the peer-reviewed research and bringing that into my container so that I can really blend the smoke and the science because the
Fuck
work
yeah.
that we do is very smoky, but we want to be able to bring that tangible element, that science experience, so that they can sink their teeth into it, so that they can put pieces together. So the big thing that I would look at, and anytime sales is feeling emotional for you, the listener, is to me, I'm like, okay, what's going on with your process? What's happening when someone books a call? Are they getting a pre-call resources page right before they get on the call that has long form content so they know who you are before they get on the call? A lot of the times, people who come in, they're like, yeah, I need help with objections. I need help with objections. It's like, okay, yes, we can work on that. But let's look at all the upstream issues that happened before you got to the end of the call. Did you reframe the objection in the middle of the call before you got to the end so that you had more trust and you can see the future of what the objection is going to be at the end? Did you give them that long form content like we said? Like, for example, I send a pre-call resource page to everyone that books a sales call with me, and they binge my podcast. And when they binge my podcast, they get on the call, they feel like they know me and I don't even know who they are. So
Yeah.
that way it's like, I'm not selling myself. I'm qualifying them to see if they're an aligned fit. So it's a lot less pressure for you, the coach, to hold that container of the sales call, knowing that this person is coming in already bought in. They filled out the application. You're not getting a partner objection because you've asked the question in a certain way where they either are not going to have the objection or they're going to bring their partner on the call. Little nuances like that of being able to make sure the trust is built before they get on. And you'll start to notice, wait, I didn't even get a money objection. Well,
Yes.
because we resolved all these upstream issues, the perceived value is there now. And then say you do get an objection at the end, which does happen, of course, money, time, partner, whatever it is. Well, can we use a more layered approach, which is the feminine strategy? Instead of just telling them what to do, the masculine strategy says, well, is that the cost you pay now? Or is that the cost? I don't even know what they say. It's like
Right.
just that and then you're done.
It
It's like
feels
an
like
inch.
that though.
It feels like that. It's like an
Yeah.
inch deep. And, and when we say masculine, this doesn't mean like this is what the men are doing. It's like I see female coaches teaching this
Yeah.
too. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why
Yeah.
are you making videos about how to handle 10 objections in 60 seconds? Like, that's not the point. The point is to take your time with the objection and to go those layers deep. Did we normalize the objection? Did we isolate it? Did we reframe it with an analogy? Did we get their buy-in on the reframe? Did we consequence it? And did we get their commitment? There's no rush to those layers. And when you use NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, you're able to really have it come from them and they can identify, what is the cost of if I didn't do something today instead of telling them. So it's a lot of letting it come from them without coaching, of making sure the decision feels like a full body yes instead of we force them into it. And then we have all these problems later of them having buyer's regret. Why did I do this? It's like, give them the power for it to come from them and then everybody wins.
Yeah. I think the goal is different when you sell something that is foundationally only going to be successful with trust. It is very hard to have a masculine sales approach that deteriorates trust and then hold a somatically sound trauma-informed container. So I'm going to ask you to come and like share your most difficult, traumatic, heaviest, most burdensome, like, I can see it. I can see it. I can feel it. I can taste it because Claire Gustinance is my main Claire. And I'm just like, if I've already deteriorated this by using these like more bro marketing lever pulley, when they say this, you do that. It's like, yes, that is still buyer psychology. And yes, you can still a lot of times get to that. Yes. But then when I open the container and I'm like, okay, now share all of your wounded, most internal, but they're like, oh no, I'm not ready for that. And then I'm going, well, my work isn't able to be as successful if we can't get in there. And if you don't trust me to get in there and to hold you, and it's like, oh yeah, I just fucked that all up by doing this like very masculine checklist of like what I find to be manipulating them into a yes. And a lot of people used to say, like the Houdini of like, tell them what they want to hear and then give them what they actually need. But like when you are founded in energetics, when you are founded in the soul and in the energy and in the body, and you are working with intuitive beings, you can't code switch like that from the sales call to the actual offering. And I find that a lot of that is deteriorating for a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm going to get left behind if I don't go masculine on the front end because of AI, because of revenue, because of all of these pieces. But then they're getting them into their containers and they're like, this isn't my flavor of relationship now because I've changed it from the beginning.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the coaching industry, it's unregulated. So there's a responsibility on us as coaches to be able to have that congruency from the moment that they come into our world and every touch point all the way through the container.
Yes.
And we don't want to mess it up collectively. Like, let us have the freedom in this industry where we don't have to respond to licenses. I could have gone down the route. I got a master's in psychology. I became a grad school professor and I taught psychology, and I could have been a therapist, but that would have been a very easy box to put myself in. And not only wasn't it the spaces I wanted to hold, but it wasn't free. I would have
Yeah.
had to respond to a license, and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. So it wasn't free. We have the freedom in our coaching business to do whatever we want, to create our own offers. So let's keep it that way
Yeah.
before the FCC, FTC all come in on us. So there is that responsibility as coaches that we need to embody this work fully and to be able to let people feel good from the moment that they come into the container and not do that code switching, like you said.
Yes. I want to hear your perspective on something that is difficult around our industry and that personally has gotten under my skin several times, and I've been doing my own work around this. We hear a lot about the deterioration of trust, the bait and switch in the coaching industry, and at this point the post COVID era of online business coaching, I'll include healer priestess in that too, where the majority of clients that we're working with, not all of them, but the majority of clients that we're working with have invested before. And unfortunately, a lot of them, like over 50%, have been burned previously. How do we, as high integrous practitioners, how do we navigate that? How do we face that? How do we speak to that in a way that isn't just here's the list of bullshit coaches that here's who I think is full of crap, and then here's who I think is real. How do we do this in a way that still stays integrous to ourselves, but that honors the truth that a lot of our clients have made investments, and not just, oh, I was pressured into an investment, but they were able to show up and actually offer what they told me, what they sold me on. But I was sold something that was smoke and mirrors. And in the healing industry, that happens a lot, where you get great marketing, great sales, and then people get into these containers and they're like, I was promised this alchemical experience and I did not receive it. I paid a lot of money and the follow through wasn't there. Can you talk to us a little bit about how we navigate that as practitioners who aren't doing that, but who are dealing with the ramifications of that being rampant in our industry?
Ah, so good. That's about 80 to 85% of my clientele. They come to my sales calls. They've already invested before. They've been in multiple containers, but they have been masculine heavy containers. And everything in them got them onto my call of am I really going to do this again? Am I really going to take the leap after everything I've been through? Can I really trust myself?
Yes.
And there's just so much here of showing them that, yes, there is another way, but there's so much more of this masculine heavy that people think, the heart-led coaches, the healers, the practitioners, they think, well, I guess this is how you're supposed to run a business. I just signed a client the other day and she invested thousands and thousands of dollars on this marketing program that was masculine heavy that said, you need to cold outreach. This is how you make money. This is how you do it. And it's okay, sure, maybe that works for some people, and Alex Hormozy talks about it, but for our people, there's a better way because there's no opt-in with cold outreach. So what we teach is new follow outreach, which gives people a clear way to opt out and opt in. There's so many more feminine ways to have conversations with people. Instead of programs saying, this is how you're supposed to do it, people don't need to opt in, and then we're just barging in people's
Yeah.
inboxes. So certain techniques like that, they're coming into my calls and they're still taking the leap. So I'm just honoring them so hard for, despite being burned, they still get to have a second chance. This other client did the same thing. She invested thousands. She was in 4 containers, thousands and thousands. She really understands the value of investing. And then as soon as we started talking, she's like, okay, let's do it. Let's take this leap. So it takes a responsibility for us as practitioners to be able to honor them for that leap and being able to take that next step and to know that, hey, this is going to be a common theme the more time that goes on. Because of how much the coaching industry is growing, more people are going to understand the value of coaching, more people are going to get burned, but do your due diligence.
Yeah.
Really trust your intuition when you're doing research. Look at their testimonials, look at their highlights, look at everything to really see and feel, is this person an aligned fit for me? I think it can be very easy to fall into the trap of, I need to do all this research. I need to look at all these coaches and have all these backup plans, which is the blue pill mindset. But at the end of the day, can you trust your intuition and go all in on that one coach that really makes you feel that alignment? There's that trust
Mhm.
again.
Yeah, I want to talk about the technicality as the practitioner. What do we make sure that we have readily available, easy to find, that answers a lot of those questions? So you already mentioned that when someone books a sales call with you, that you're providing them some pre-opt-in information of you are warming them up, answering some of their questions, providing the objection navigation already, so that when they're on that sales call with you, they're like, I already know you, and now they're just able to offer themselves for you to check, is this the right fit fit for me. But talk to me a little bit about what do we do on Instagram? What do we do on TikTok? What is long form for someone who's like, okay, that's probably not just a reel or my highlights. Like, what are the things that when someone comes to your digital storefront, your Instagram page, your TikTok, your YouTube, your whatever, that they can easily find the things that they need, maybe that they don't even know, but that we make it easy for them to go, okay, I know who that is. I'm starting to get a feel for this. I have some of my questions already answered. I have some objections that I didn't even know I would get to having already been solved. Like, what are some of those points that you would recommend we kind of like audit our own things and go, oh, maybe I do need a little bit more of that, or maybe I need to tweak that a little bit versus the typical, let me just change my bio 20 times in 1 month. Like, what are some of those more meat and potato things that we can focus on that will make a difference?
That's so real. I mean, how many times does the average coach change their bio? I actually haven't changed my bio in a very long time, which is a
Yeah.
testament to like being clear of
Yeah.
my avatar. But I love what you're saying. We used to say you need 25 to 30 touch points before someone becomes your client. But nowadays we're saying people need at least 5 hours in a room with you. So this
Okay.
is why I moved into creating my podcast, because I got to the point where I was suffocated. I was like, I cannot fit my story in 1 minute videos anymore.
Yes.
Like, this feels out of integrity with my values, that I have all this stuff going on in my life and I can't quite capture and share with people what an entrepreneur's journey really is like. I need more space. I need long form content. So it's very important for the people coming into your world to have the granularity of your life, to see that it's not just all sunshine and rainbows, because then we're giving people a false perspective on what entrepreneurship really is. And then they
Uh-huh.
think it's easy and they go into your container. They're like, well, I thought it was easy. You're showing
Right.
everything is easy. And now I'm hung up on this thing. And I'm like, I didn't see you getting hung up on this. So
Um,
once again, like, ethics and integrity is so important with being able to capture all the parts of our journey, which is very hard to do with short form. So can we make some YouTube videos? Can we have a teaching point? It's very important to create belief shifting posts. Really look at what are those objections that you are getting in the DMs? What are people saying to you? Where are people feeling stuck? Where are their limiting beliefs? And can you make content around that so you start to help them see the world differently? Belief shifting posts are so powerful for that element, especially with long form content. Can we make a masterclass? Like, a big, big, big part of my system, and also what makes it more feminine, is in the beginning of my business, I would live launch masterclasses every month, because I got a lot of clients that way, because they're in a room with me. They get to see my magic. They get to see the journey, who I am. They have an hour of teachings and story from me.
yeah.
And then I started making that into a system. So I put it in a deadline funnel. I built and hosted the masterclass one time, put it in a funnel that creates that same element of, okay, it's going to expire. Okay, this offer is going to expire, without me having to be on all the time. So that's a system that I highly recommend, is that deadline funnel. Because now it's like, I built it one time, I have an asset running for me, and I'm getting clients watching the replay, joining my program, and I'm out skateboarding. So
Yeah.
I don't need to be on all the time anymore. So it's just reflecting on, how can I still give my people what they need with long form content, so that I also can stay in my intuition, stay in my being, instead of having to do more. So that's what I would recommend, is like all these elements from both sides of like, create more long form content, really speak to all the parts of your journey so they connect with you as a person. That way, when they come into your container, they're like, oh, okay, yes, I remember you were stuck on this and I remember what you did to get through it. This humanizes it for me. I feel the realness. I feel the authenticity of what you're really talking about.
What a great suggestion. And I like the way that you're placing it in reality, not just, again, the checklist of like, okay, you need 5 hours worth of long form content on YouTube and then you're done. It's like, no, the perspective of it, the understanding. And I think, especially with, the way that the world changed when AI really like took its place, knowledge is not it. Like, everybody has access to the knowledge, and it's this embodied, digested, integrated wisdom that is the separation point, and like the double-edged sword of us being in this industry that is about that, where we're like yes, you can talk to an AI coach that has been fed all of the information, but the uniqueness of my embodied wisdom and being able to use in real time these gifts that like I cannot feed into an AI to like solve and soothe and support and like adapt in real time for where you are in the present moment energetically and still bringing the science into that. I think all of those pieces are extremely important, and it's even better for people to see it in the way that you're delivering it versus that like make sure each of these is done, this holistic perspective of someone's lived experience moving into a sales choice.
Yeah, that's why it's like YouTube, podcast, the freebies, they can get you to a certain point because you've learned the stuff that is in the content, but the implementation part, the being held in a container, the integration, all of that, you can't get that from a freebie. You just can't. And then also too, we look at the high ticket model and why that's so important with like the frequency of the energy. It's not even the same with low ticket. I
Yeah.
had a low ticket container and the buy-in is different. People show up differently. They don't show up to the calls. This is why the high ticket model is like the way to go because people are in. They're like the good student. They come in with their notepad. They know. But it's all about, do I believe that I can raise my frequency to know that there's a whole frequency of people that will come into that? Just
Yeah.
like I think of it like wine, right? I told you I was a server. You can go buy a bottle of wine from Trader Joe's for $7. But there's also, when I was serving fine dining, people coming in, they would buy bottles of wines from me for $7,000, $8,000. There's a whole frequency of people that understand that value. We just need to speak to them
Yes.
instead of speaking to the $7 bottle, which gets you $7 results, $7 transformations.
Yes. What are a few of the ways that we can change how we're speaking to our ideal client to start to consistently and confidently speak to that premium buyer, to that high ticket client who has the buy-in, who has the follow through, because that changes the game for both of us. Like I am delivering, delivering, delivering. And at some point, you're going to burn yourself out if the person on the other end is going, oh, yeah, that's awesome. But then 5 minutes later, they're already back to who they used to be. And two calls later, they've let go of everything that you've already talked about. So, like, what do we change on our end from our delivery or our language or the way that we're presenting? What are a few of these like bite-sized pieces that people can take with them to start implementing so they can start to like, okay, this is how I digest this. And then when they're like, yep, more, they'll be able to go to our show notes and click all the different things for you. But give us a little bit of like, how do we get started with that if that is something that's really important to us? If hearing, oh, it's available up here, it's just speaking to it, calling that in, being aligned with that, how do we start making that change?
Oh, so good. I mean, I have a very, very tangible technique that I'm going to give you. And first, I'll say, and you might have heard this before, but we always need this reminder when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one.
Yes.
It is so safe to not be specific with your messaging on social media, with your offer. It is
Yeah.
so safe to focus on the deliverables and the calls and the WhatsApp support when
Yeah.
that's not what high level clients care about. It's just not. People don't come onto my sales calls and they're like, "How many calls are in the container?" They're like, "No,
Right?
what transformation am I going to get? What
Yes.
have you done for your clients?" So first and foremost, be hyper specific. Do not be afraid of leaving people out because that is the point. The point is for you to speak so specifically that your target avatar will listen to it and say, "That is fully me." Not, "Oh, that's kind of me." We want resonance. We want goosebumps. We want her to feel like you literally pulled out your phone and you're speaking directly to her. That's what we want. And
Yeah.
it's going to feel like you're leaving people out. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Some techniques to get there in being hyper specific with your copy. First off, pulling out your phone and pretending that you're FaceTiming your avatar. Just one person. FaceTime. Have it in a container of how you want to deliver that content of like stopping, like my framework here is STAR, stop the scroll, answer, or tease, answer, recommend. But we want to speak to one person.
Yeah.
And it's also, you think about like, why is Taylor Swift so successful? Why is her and her team so successful? Because in her songs, she's talking about the guy in the skinny jeans and having a crush on him. So some girls might not care about guys with skinny jeans, but that's not the point because they still feel the specificity in that. They're like, wow, like I see storytelling in there. I'm seeing myself in that story. And the more that you can create this element of storytelling where your person is putting themselves and they're visualizing it, that's what we want. Now, we need to do our research on our target avatar. So if you haven't done market research, if you're not getting on calls with people and really getting an idea of who your target avatar is, my energetic practice here that is pure gold, you are a version of your target avatar. Think about it.
Yeah.
Okay? Just soak that in for a moment. Soak it in. Now, what year was it when you were the version of your target avatar? For me, it was 2024 when I invested in a masculine sales program and I was like, is this it? I lost my magic. I didn't
Yeah.
know what to do. And then finally I found feminine sales, but it was 2024. What was it for you? Pull out a journal and write down what's the date today? January 16th? Today is January 16th, 2024. And today quantum leap backwards and get in the energetic space of what it was like to be your target avatar. When you woke up, what was the first thing on your mind? When you went to bed, what was the last thing on your mind? What were you going through? What were the struggles? What were your desires? Everything. You are your target avatar. So we just need to remember. Like you said,
Yeah.
this is about remembrance. Remember what it was like when you were your avatar. It's so easy to lose that connection when time goes by and then we get into the sales and we think about how it should be. It's like, no, it's just connection. So let's remember what it was like when you were going through that. And then let's take that journal entry and speak to her. Pull out your phone once again of like, hey, I get it. You probably just invested in a super masculine sales program and you don't even know it yet. But here's how you do probably know it. You wake up and you don't feel the magic anymore. You wake up and you ask yourself, is this it? You wake up and you're like, where's everything around me? You wake up and you realize you didn't pull your tarot card for 7 days. You connect with her. And guess what? She's going to hear you and she's going to say, what? How did she know that?
Yeah.
That's me. I want to work with you. You get it. So that's the exercise. You really need to know her, but you are her. So go back in time and connect with her.
Just you dropping me back into that. Like I had that exact moment identified so quickly. So I'm excited to do that practice after we close off of this because I'm like, yes, there is. And for different programs, it's like at different times for me. But like I remember the first time that I invested $15,000 in private coaching and we got on the first call and it was someone who like I deeply respect. It was one of like my clients who I had coached and then I started coaching with her and we get on the first call and she's like, okay, so what do you want to talk about? And I was like, what? And I understand that that might be a great fit for another ideal client avatar, but everything flooded through me of like, wait, how did I make this decision? How did I decide that this was the right aligned choice? And now I show up here and you're wanting me to be in the leadership position of where I want to go when I don't know what you have. I'm like, that's why I came. And that is one of the places where I'm like, I have built my high ticket premium offerings based off of that experience because I personally like to be held way more than that. I like to be given the options. I like to know where we can go. I like to make sure that there's a plan for like how we depth and all of these different things. And like, there is so much rhetoric in the high ticket space of like, oh, premium buyers, they barely need anything. They pay and don't have any questions. They like don't utilize all your services. And I'm like, I do understand how for another industry, for another coach, for another, but I'm like, my premium people, they do it all the time, just like me. And so they want to be held. They want to be seen. They want to be supported. They want to be given the esoteric, the magic, all of this beauty that they give to others. They want the options. They want to be able to say, no, not that. Let's do, yeah, that sounds really, oh, yeah, right there. That's so perfect. And I'm like, that was a $15,000 lesson. And so much of what I got from that experience was in opposition versus what I directly received from it. And it is that ability to go, okay, I know there's a lesson here. It's not just like wasted. It's not just a loss. It's not just this. How can I benefit from that? And now I'm going quantumly, I can go back to that version of me that made that choice thinking, and I remember the exact moment that I thought it, if I want people to invest $15,000 into my work, I have to invest that amount with someone else. And it really was from this very rudimentary place of like, well, I haven't invested $15,000 in private work, so I should probably do that. And I just picked the person who was like right there at that level, who was offering that. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's more of this like checking the box versus am I in full resonance with the way that this person teaches, what this person is teaching, and their living embodiment? And like, that's my ideal client, is that you're not hiring me just for the things that check the box, that you are like, I want to calibrate to your level of access to your own magic, because that's where I want you to be. I want you to be able to access the depth and power and potency of your own magic, not just get my 5-step framework for this thing.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
like we said, it's like, yeah, there's strategy. Yeah, there's these techniques. Yeah, these things on top of it. But what we really value is that energetic frequency that aligns with our values. It's
Yes.
like, how can I feel in tune with my magic? How can I actually feel like be happy?
Yes.
It's like, that's
Enjoy
what we
this.
all want. Yeah, enjoy
Yes.
my life, be happy, not have to hustle and grind and think that this is how it's supposed to be. It's like, no, it's like this. If you're feeling, if you're feeling this energetic attachment to, oh, this is how it should be. It's like, no, what do I want it to be like instead?
Yes. Ah, Raf, this has been such a lovely, delicious, and amplification conversation. When we get together, I love the speed and the light and the potency. I feel like we are just a prism that like separates the light in so much potency. And I've deeply enjoyed our conversations. I'm so excited for our episodes to come out and to continue doing some beautiful work together. Like you said, these longer form conversations are really beautiful ways to share with not only each other, but our ideal clients. This is who I really am, and shifting sales from getting someone to buy something to this place of like, sales is my sacred gift because this is who and what I am. And for the right person, they are searching, they are seeking, they are desiring this. And they're so grateful that both of us are like fully expressing and the living embodiment of our work. And they're like, that is what I didn't even really know I needed, but I feel it so much. And these longer form pieces allow them to come to that in such a truthful and peaceful and regulated way instead of trying to force it in sales calls. So I'm really
Yeah.
grateful to be able to have had two beautiful conversations in such close proximity to each other. So I want to give you the space to share with people when they're like, I need more of you. I need more of this. All the places that they can follow you, that they can find you, that they can dive in, and how they can work with you. Let's talk a little bit more about Revenue Room.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Radiant Rahaf. My name is Rahaf, Rahaf. But yeah, it's I created simplicity in the way that I help. So Revenue Room is my core offer. I have heart-led coaches that come inside that want to learn this feminine strategy, that want to learn this no pressure but leadership approach to sales so that you can truly convert the people coming into your DMs straight to your sales calls with the process to make it and streamline that from happening. So I have people in there and female coaches in there that have tried other programs. And they said, is this it? They have gotten other types of success, but they've never seen the money part. For example, I just did an episode with Becca who came in. She was in 4 containers and she took the leap. And she's like, yeah, I really want to make like 5K month. Like I want to get a 5K month. And within 2 weeks of her being in Revenue Room, she made 14K. She's like, I've never done that before. I've never even made like 3K, 5K. So, but it's just a true testament that when you finally find a strategy that aligns with who you are as a coach, that is not this rigid approach that you are being taught, there is another way. And it's just so beautiful being plugged in there, having the different types of calls, the sales call, that I lead, the mock call so that you can practice. Because what happens when you're just studying and everything is theory? It's like, no, we come in here and there's a guided mock where you get to practice. You get to run through my steps of radiance, which is the framework for sales calls. You get to learn how to reframe objections before they become objections at the end of the call. So the mock call is just so lit. It's so lit up with this energy. And then my partner, who's in the business too, who I mentioned is like the DM strategist. He leads the DM setting calls because we teach you about the DMs. He leads the data and tracking calls where we give you our data tracker so that you can make it feel like a business. It's not smoky anymore. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. This is my close rate. Okay, I don't need to be attached to this outcome. That's okay. Then it just becomes like the law of averages where you just get to increase your skill set to make that number even higher. So we make sales predictable and we help make it feel good too. It's like, that's why I bring a lot of the nervous system work into it. I start a meditation, high frequency music with our calls so that people really ground into the feminine energy. So that's Revenue Room. And you can apply, book a call with me. As we said in this call, like, I'm going to let you know if it's not an aligned fit. Like, I'm very, very in integrity with that, making sure that the frequency of this room is positioned in a way where everyone is getting what they need out of it. And yeah, also got my podcast, the Really Rahaf podcast, but Revenue Room is going to be the way to come in. And I got a free masterclass too, if you want to kind of get an idea for my frameworks. It's called the Feminine Sales Method. It's completely free. You can hop in there, and then from there you're like, okay, I feel the vibes. Let me see what Revenue Room is about. And then you can always hop on a call with me after then. But either way, just pop into my DMs. I want to talk to you. I want to hear the breakthroughs from this episode and dive even deeper with you.
Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful conversation. I can't wait for people to get access to this.
I know. I'm excited for our Instagram live too.
Me too.